everyone, and welcome down to episode 91 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia. And the dude on the I did it again, dude, on the other screen or in your other ear if you are listening to the show, it's Cam Blake in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, Brendan. How are you on this wonderful spring-like, what are we, Thursday night? It's like spring down here today.
Might be spring where you are. It is persistently coming down as we speak
Really?
here in Ocean Grove. It is pouring rain.
What's going on down there?
It ruined my plans to get back on the push bike tonight, but never mind. That can wait another couple of days.
Well, it's been, we've had a little bit of rain today, but it's actually quite mild outside. Like I walked out, come in the office. I'm looking at the radar now. You are getting smashed. It's red on the radar there.
It's rainy sun.
Yeah, but I'm good. Everything's going well down here in beautiful old Tasmania.
Well, it's just going back to the weather. Yesterday morning, my neck of the woods recorded the coldest winter morning for like 7 years or something. It was here on the coast. It was like 1.4 degrees, which everyone's like Crimea River, whatever. It snows where I live, but on the coast, it's rare to get that low a temperature and a little bit of frost
near the water. Yeah. I saw Ballarat had minus 4.9 or something the other day.
I saw a brass monkey looking for a welder in Ballarat. Ballarat's good for one thing, and that's cold.
It doesn't. Yeah, I think I went through Ballarat the other day on the way to the Flinders with 5-Star Dan, and we stopped for the required bacon and egg McMuffin.
Yeah,
and it was colder than a witch's tit there. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It is
so.
Cold.
Yeah,
so charity in Ballarat.
But I didn't realize Ballarat had a bit of altitude to it as well.
It does.
Like it's actually, it's like 700 meters or 600 meters above, isn't it?
Yeah, what's it called? The region, it's something, is it the Western Highlands or something like that? I think it's called.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, I lived in Ballarat for a couple of years, and I want those couple of years back. Thank you.
Get a shout out to all the people in Ballarat listening.
Oh, they get it. People who live in Ballarat are very stoic. They get it. I don't know why they live in Ballarat. Why the hell would you? But anyway, it's another story.
Yeah.
A little bit of housekeeping as usual. Thank you to everyone for subscribing, liking the channel, following us here on the Down South Photo Show. We really do appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who has visited dsps.com.au. We get a lot of visitors to that website now. It's great. Good to see.
Don't ask me how many people go there. I haven't looked.
I won't be asking you that. But yes, well in excess of 600 subscribers on the YouTubes, which is awesome, and thousands of downloads on the audio podcast. So thank you very much. The August photo comp. The theme is color. We have had 42 entries so far, which is pretty awesome. So if you've got preferably landscape image, but hey, try us out, image to enter in our color themed competition for August, please go ahead and hit us up on our Facebook page. That's where you can enter that.
Now, last week you said, I've got an idea of what someone's going to post. You're sort of looking, you said you're looking for a style of shot and color. Have you seen it yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not that I'm preempting anything, but I thought someone might. But anyway, I'll tell you. All will be revealed when we.
Yeah. Well, you've got just under 2 weeks left as of today. So by the time this comes out, you've got about a week and a half to get your entries in, and then we'll announce the winner. Probably in 3 episodes' time, I think that'd be roughly.
Something like that. Yeah, the episodes are flying by, as is the year. My goodness, we have 2 weeks of winter left.
We're done with winter down here.
It's crazy, isn't it? 2 weeks. I mean, anyway, it's a great time of year. The reason I love this time of year from a photography point of view is because the days, you can see it getting longer and longer. And, and I measure it by when I close the shop up at 5 o'clock and it's just that little bit brighter.
Yes.
I can now go and shoot the sunset, and then before we know it, daylight savings is going to kick in for us here in Victoria and Tasmania.
Yeah.
And then we're away. It's great. I love it.
I was talking to someone the other day. I can't remember who it was about. It might have been Chelsea, maybe, about daylight savings. Hi, Chelsea. The best thing about this time of year is when you're watching the footy, and you just see like that beautiful MCG bathed in sunlight with it's 20 degrees at the MCG today. You're like, that's spring. We're here. That's right. We're kicking, and then it pours down rain like the next day. So
yeah, that's right. No,
but it's a good time of year.
The footy finals are around the corner.
Indeed.
Backgrounds, please, Cameron. tell us all about your beautiful background today.
I shall go first. This is a beautiful old King Billy pine. Based on the size of it, I'm going to say it's pushing, maybe sort of close to 1,000 years old, this tree. Probably 750 to 1,000 years old. It was in the forest on the King Billy Walk, which is up at Cradle Mountain on our recent Cradle Mountain workshop. But we were practicing sunstars and getting the sunstars coming through the forest. And because in the forest shots, the sky is not really going to do much for you because it's usually blown out. But you can create some interest by shooting a small aperture hole, something like an F11 or F16 works generally pretty well to create that little sunstar. So I took this shot as a bit of an example, and then it actually worked out pretty well. But I've had a few comments about the sunstar that it looks quite unique, and it's sort of got like streaks as opposed to sort of, I guess, like rays coming through. But I think it's the lens I was using. It was like an 18mm lens. I think it's just the coatings on the lens have given it a really cool effect. But minimal photoshopping or lightrooming on that, just getting the exposure right. And I like it. It looks pretty cool.
I like it too.
I'd use it as my background.
Now, is it a myth or am I right in saying that you can count the streaks and see what aperture you shot at?
Oh,
I've heard of this before. If you shoot,
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's something way back in the recesses of this brain that retains useless information. But I read, so maybe it might not be with the sun. It probably would be, but like street lights and stuff. If you count the fronds, you should be able to work out within reason what aperture that was shot at. So,
let's go with that.
Yeah, why not? It sounds good, doesn't it? Let's just make crap up like we do here.
We've been bullshitting our way through the last 90 episodes, so why not stop? Why stop now?
Yeah, why stop at 91?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you might be onto a winner there, mate. I don't know.
Well, wouldn't it make sense?
Well, no. Well,
I thought it had something to do with the blades of the actual aperture mechanism itself. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll break that down in another episode and completely bust that.
I would suggest, if I was going to have a guess, it'd be something to do with the elements in the lens.
Yeah. Oh, it could be too. Yes.
Maybe it's the amount of elements in the lens is how many streaks you get,
or a combination.
I don't know. We'll have to. If anyone knows the answer to that,
if you know the answers, please by all means comment.
If you would like to run the show and educate us, feel free.
Right, exactly. Hey, we're all learning here. I like it. Should we talk about my background?
Absolutely, go for it.
This is boring Ocean Grove Beach. So, what are we doing on tonight's show?
That's. I like the streaks in the water though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's using motion blur in Photoshop to achieve that.
Oh, you cheating bastard!
Yeah, I know, aren't I? Just horrible. What a loser. I don't know. This is a shot I dug up. Do you remember a few episodes ago we talked about going back into your hard drive and finding old photos?
Yes.
That's one from about 4 years ago, and I panned my camera to the right about 30 degrees and got one of my best-selling Ocean Grove images. The very next frame, but this frame I kind of liked it, but the water was so boring that I decided to muck around with it, and that's what I got. So I like it.
At least you owned up to the fact that you cheated.
Oh, I do it all. It's so funny because people like, as you know, I have my kangaroo shot, which happy birthday kangaroo shot, turned 25 this week. And people always ask me if that's photoshopped, and I say no. Well, I've got to be just as honest when I do Photoshop stuff, right? So if people ask me, hey, is that real? It's like, well, yes, but it's got a filter on it.
I know what that's called. That's called integrity.
Thank you. God, never accuse me of carrying integrity, Cameron, please.
Well, there's a lot of people that would just put up that shot and go, oh, yeah, that's just how I did it. Yeah.
No, and if anyone with any idea, well, for those of you who can't see it, if you look right close to the horizon, none of those ripples are blurred. No. So yeah, it's kind of
but that's because the Earth's flat, like it doesn't.
That's right, exactly. Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah. The motion blur doesn't carry that far out along the flat horizon.
Yeah. No, what's when you get past the Australia's international waters, the time is different.
Well,
that's
maybe
what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, that's bizarre.
Anyway,
what are we talking about on the episode? I know what we're talking about. We're talking about rules.
I don't know. You put up a whole heap of stuff here.
A hot topic at the moment is rules. So we're going to talk about the rules of photography.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
to sort of demystify rules, I guess, debunk rules, definitely.
Okay.
And wouldn't you know it, you've got a prime example right over your shoulder right there.
Oh, this one, yes.
When I was young, which is for anyone playing along at home, well into last century, and I first picked up a camera, one of the rules that used to echo around my head was never take photos directly into the sun or with the sun, facing towards the sun. Always have this. I think for some reason this rings a bell. Have the sun over your left shoulder. Why the hell would it be your left shoulder?
Well, what if you're right-handed? You're stuffed then, aren't you?
That's right, exactly. But that seems to ring true with me. That I was told, and I think it does ring true. Okay, back in the day, when you had a flash that would fire and throw 3 feet, you didn't want to have silhouettes, and I get that. And when you got people in your frame, sure, But this whole thing of don't take photos directly into the sun, let's debunk that.
Well, I think you've just raised a really interesting point. I think a lot of these rules, well, most of these points we don't know, but I think a lot of these rules are not necessarily created for landscape photography.
Right.
I think a lot, exactly what you said there with portrait photography and stuff like that. A lot of these rules, I think, were made for portrait photography and maybe some wedding photography and all that kind of stuff. Shooting into the sun, I was the same. I remember learning about that and hearing about that and working at camera shops. They're like, oh, don't ever shoot into the sun. But yeah, it's definitely something you don't do it all the time, and you're not looking to shoot directly straight into the ball of flames into the sky. But what you're wanting to do, like I've done in my photo here, you can actually use that sun and create some interesting sort of designs in your shots. And the other thing you can also do is, I could have hid this sun behind one of the tree trunks and had the glow sort of coming out around the tree trunks, which is also something that's really cool. I think maybe one of the reasons why people said don't shoot into the sun, based on the fact that everything was filmed when these rules were made, is that exposing for that kind of stuff is a nightmare. So, there's a lot of adjusting and exposure you've got to do if you're going to use the sun so prominently in your shot with a bright sun star or, behind a trunk and creating a glow. You've got to either, create that silhouette, or you've got to expose or overexpose. So I think it's a bit like every other rule in photography. Keep an eye on it, but don't necessarily live by it. I think if there's a shot that can be taken, then, and if you can be creative enough, then absolutely. That's sort of what.
Yeah, that would be a blanket comment for pretty much all our rules in inverted commas, because I've always been with photography. I think those rules sort of hang in your brain, and it's like, if you remember, we talked about photographer's block, sometimes falling back to the basics, which is some of the rules are, which we'll talk about a few more rules in a sec. Sometimes they can help you. They can be a bit of a rock. It's like, okay, my composition, what the hell am I doing? Let's go back to these so-called rules and start there. And then you've got a foundation to shoot from. And then you've got that ability to twist the rules and start to break a few rules. Hey, what does it look like when the sun's not obscured by that tree trunk? Yeah. And what kind of technique can I employ here? This is where I love the minutiae of all photography, but particularly landscape. And that is the tweaks and the infinite number of tweaks you can make to your image by bending the rules.
Yeah. So I reckon as well, a lot of the rules, like if you were teaching someone brand new to photography, you wouldn't go up to them and say, hey, right, we're in a forest, go shoot straight into that sun.
That's right.
Like you wouldn't, these are the rules that I think a lot of the rules of photography, like we're going to go through, are all sort of, like I said, the starting off rules that you want to get a grasp on what you can and can't do, what works and can't work. And then, you bend those rules a bit, or, you get really close to the edge of those rules. So yeah, you wouldn't definitely say to a newbie, hey, make sure every shot you do in landscape, you're shooting into the sun.
No, that's right.
But you would certainly advise, what, if you see a shot that the sun's creating some interesting light coming through a canopy or reflecting off of water or sort of hidden behind a mountain, then by all means start to incorporate that in your shots. But yeah, you wouldn't go out there off the bat saying, hey, let's just shoot straight at the big star in the sky there.
And as I say, the rules can become more of a safety net when you are battling and you're trying to get it right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The big one though, and I'm sure, well, most people who listen to this show would know or would have heard of the rule of thirds. basically, if you've got your image and you draw I call it noughts and crosses board, or a tic-tac-toe board on your frame in your mind, it's where those lines intersect. So in my case, it'd be like here and like here. So pretty much where my horizon is, what do you know? And pretty much where the top of the stairs are there, surprise, surprise. It's good to have points of interest where those lines intersect. And in the case of my photo, I'll just cover that up. You can see the yellow sign there pretty much happens to be right where those lines would intersect. So that can, generally speaking, as a rule, give your image a little bit more interest. So do you consciously use the rule of thirds, Cam?
I have the grid on my screen, but I think it just becomes a bit of sort of second nature now, where you just don't want. Although I find like the horizon in the middle, like we always have a bit of a piss take at horizons in the middle and going downhill and stuff like that. But sometimes that can work, and so again, it's a rule that I'm aware of, but it's a rule I'm also quite happy to break if the requirement is there. I think one of the biggest things I come across with teaching the rule of thirds is, you've got the horizon on the top or bottom third, you've got interest stuff on the left and right sort of thirds. A lot of people ask, okay, well, do I have to put exactly on that line? Does it have to be right on that line? Like, is there some sort of scientific reason why I have to do it? And the answer is no. But what you want to do is try and keep the interests on those intersecting points. For example, in your shot there over where the yellow sign is, that's on the left or right hand side, whichever one it is. That's sort of on the intersecting bottom sort of third corner, I guess you could say. And then you could say on the opposite corner, you could have the sun setting there in that corner as well. So a lot of people, I think, get the rule of thirds, and I definitely subconsciously use it a lot. But the question I get asked a lot is, how anal do you have to be about getting things on all those sections? And my advice is, keep it in mind. It doesn't have to be precise. I see people sitting at a shot for 10 minutes just trying to get that horizon perfectly on the line on their screen. It's like, dude, don't worry about it. You're missing all this light. Get the shot. You can always crop it to be a bit like that as well.
And I think that's where the better rule breakers form. Sorry to cut you off there, sir. But I think that's where the better photographers are rule breakers, insofar as, particularly with the rule of thirds, near enough is good enough. I like a little bit of chaos in the image. I mean, you could argue where you've placed the sun in your image is off. It's not quite in that spot, but the rays that are heading towards the center of the frame sort of cover up the fact that it's not exactly on where it is, but it's not far off it. So I find, and particularly because we're landscape photographers, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's a purely natural scene. There's chaos there. There's no order there, and you're trying to pluck a bit of order out that pleases the human eye. And that rarely works because it looks forced. It's better to let the subjects fall where they lie.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you could dance around this shot of mine for an hour trying to get it perfectly lined up. And you just won't. It just won't happen.
By which time the sun's set.
The sun's moved, and it did in this shot. The sun moved. Within the first 4 or 5 minutes I was there, it was behind another tree. So I had to keep moving my tripod around to still get that direct sunlight coming through. But I think the rule of thirds is an important one, and especially with compositions. And that's one of the big things that people struggle with a lot, is compositions. I think if you can start nailing down your understanding of the rule of thirds and really just see a shot straight away and go, oh yeah, that's got to be a bit more higher or lower, or to the left or to the right. I think when you start doing that, it becomes less of a problem, and then you can concentrate on the next step that you're doing in your shot. So, but again, if you've got a perfect reflection, like on Lake Tyrrell at our upcoming Murray Mallee workshop, and it's absolutely stunning, if we're doing something, the sunset, or there's a beautiful reflection, then you might cut the scene straight in half.
That's right. Because in that case, the reflection is the hero. So
that's right.
There's no point, having more or less sky. And in fact, you might even go the other way and have more foreground. But
that's right.
And it depends on the hero in your scene, I guess.
A
lot of the time. So thank goodness we're not a portrait photography show, Cam, because then we'd have to start talking about Fibonacci swirls.
And the what is it? The circle of influence. There's another one, isn't there? Circle of influence.
The circle of influence. I don't know if I know that. I probably have heard that one, but I don't shoot enough.
There's one that looks like a snail, not like a snail.
That's the Fibonacci, which is a mathematical equation that that apparently portrait photographers use to get everything right with their portrait. But I do not have the patience for that.
Yeah, this is the thing I think with photography, and when you come down to framing up images, there's so many wanky rules around it, and I can't even say that one you did. But I think if you practice your shots enough, it really should become second nature as to how you frame things up. Like, it shouldn't be something you're sitting there for an hour trying to figure out exactly how you frame up that shot. Like, it really should just sort of come off the screen at you and look balanced and look natural.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many times you look at people's photos, and I'm like, oh, maybe if you just move that up or down a bit, and they're like, oh, okay, and straight away they're like, oh yeah, I see it now. Like it pops off the screen when it's almost like the circle into the circle hole. It just fits, and then it makes it work. So
okay, so you used a word there that I use all the time on my workshops, particularly my landscapes and seascapes workshop.
Wanky.
Yes, all the time, particularly when you come up. No, when we're talking balance, I think that's crucial to a landscape photo is balance. So it's the yin and the yang. You've got something up here. Well, it needs to be balanced by whatever's down here. Now, sometimes, and I think one of the biggest ones that's overlooked is negative space, where the emptiness actually creates the balance against the main subject. So you might be shooting one particular subject, and neither of our photos are a good example of this, but I've got a photo of a surf life-saving flag on the beach where it's literally just the flag, and the rest there's a whole heap of nothing in that photo.
Except there's an awesome storm in the background.
There's clouds and that sort of stuff, but it's such a grand landscape that it creates that negative space. And keeps the attention firmly honed on the surf life-saving flag. So I think that sort of stuff really works. So
it's funny you say, because we did a fair bit of that when I did my Olympus days in Melbourne the other week. When we did street photography, we actually did a fair bit of that using negative space to our advantage. And I'll try and see if I can put it up on the screen here now. There was people in the city. There was people in the city all the time. It was really cool, and the city's a great spot.
I'm just going to edit it right into the image right here. So
there you go. I'm going to do it.
Or you can use it as your background. Why not?
So just that guy was standing there with his coffee, and I think he had a smoke in his mobile phone. But I could have put him straight in the middle of the scene, but just off to the side with all that beautiful sort of texture on the wall, it just helps. There's nothing there to give any interest apart from the fact that there's nothing there for interest. So it sort of works. So you could do that with a tree, or like you said, you could do it with many different things to create that negative space.
Flag right there. So that's the image I was talking about as well.
You're showing off too, eh?
Well, I've just changed my background. So sorry for people listening tonight. They're getting well and truly ripped off. You're just going to have to jump on the YouTube channel and have a look, folks.
I'm going to change mine over. That's right. Yeah. Look at that. But a negative space is a really cool thing. And I find negative space works for me. It's almost like a little light bulb goes on. I'll be looking at a scene. I'll be like, this is just not working. What's not working? And what's not working is the fact that I haven't realized that the negative space is working.
Yes.
You look at it and you go, I've got to do something with this shot. I've got to fill it up. I've got to do something. Then all of a sudden you go, no, I don't. I can actually just put that one thing in there, and everything else can just work its magic in negative space. So it's a very important one.
I completely concur. And what I really enjoy doing when I've got photographer's block, which happens regularly, is, let's say, and I'm kind of clutching for an idea here, but let's say it's a singular tree in a paddock or something like that. We've got some ripping single trees in paddocks on the Bellarine Peninsula, just by the way. I've logged about 3 of them that I'm keen to go and photograph at some point, but never have. And that is that you get that low angle to attract the negative space against the sky. Because if you don't get this background separation, it gets messy. So you might have the horizon line intersecting with your subject, like the beach flag is here.
Yes.
But if that's a big fat old tree, it ain't going to work as well. This is really subtle here, like that little cross where the horizon crosses the pole. That works for that. But if you've got a big tree that's sort of obscuring it, the horizon runs into it, it looks a bit weird.
Or if the horizon is like touching the bottom of that flag, it would be crap.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about this before as well. Was it one of your Cradle Mountain, your Dove Lake shots? And you were telling me how you literally had to just move your tripod like an inch taller. And it just gave you that tiny bit of separation between the foreground and
the
rocks
in the background, and the reflection.
Right.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff.
I think something that a lot of people don't do with their landscape photography is, I think it's just an experience thing, but a lot of people just don't look at their image. Like they just set the camera up, they go, oh yeah, there's a mountain there, there's a tree there, snap. But they don't actually look at all the elements in their shot.
Yeah.
Or very rarely do I see it. The people that have been shooting for a while, the people that have a really good eye, they line everything else up. But a lot of people just go, okay, that's a nice scene, snap. And then they go, Cam, what do you think of this? And it's like, okay, well, you got some really nice elements in here, but they're all over the shop. Like, let's do this, let's change this around.
Yeah.
So I think my advice to people with, especially framing things up and using negative space and things like that, is just take that extra few minutes just to look at every element of your shot. So, whether or not it's the tree behind me here and the sun over there, or whether or not it's the stairs, like just look at all the elements that caught your eye originally to take the photo, and try and think about, okay, if I make this photo, are they going to see the elements the same way I saw them before they took the shot? Or am I just going to make it a mess and, not make any sense of it? So take your time and suss everything out. And the other one that I like to teach people as well is the outside of your frame. So many people have these things poking in from the side, or things touching down the bottom, or whatever. Just take your time. And I think people are too rushed. They just want to get the shot and go back and fix it later. But if you take your time, do a bit of a checklist of what to look for, it just saves you heaps of time later, and it makes you a better photographer at the moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just at that point, but also going forward. If you start to, it's funny. Don't shoot how I do. Take your time.
Yeah, well, let's think. Yeah, running around like a maniac, like you do.
Yeah, that's right. That's just different. So, we're talking about rules and rules you can break, but rules that you might not have heard of before. Yeah. And another one is grouping of objects as well, and that can come about. Like in your scenario behind you, when you're in a forest, there might be a group of king billies, for example, or there might be a group of a particular species of tree that you want to photograph. Moving your angle to get them to be grouped closer together can quite often really assist the composition. We talked just now about negative space, but negative space when it's not on purpose is really obvious. Really obvious.
Yeah, that's right.
And, where you should have just change your angle again, just sneak across 10 degrees and just bring that gap between your trees closer together, so you don't have the horrible blown out overexposed sky. You've got actual, trees, if we're talking about those, or it could be, I don't know, windmills. It could be anything in the scene that you're trying to, group together. It could be a mountain range where you're getting the layering. That might mean literally driving to a different spot where you can see it, because it might take more than just stepping a few paces. So that can make a big difference to the grouping of your subjects as well.
And again, that just comes back to my previous point. Just have a look at the photo you're taking. Like, I think so many people just don't actually look. They go, oh, that's a nice scene, I'll snap that. But they don't actually look at what they're framing up or what they're trying to snap. So you're 100% right. Like, try to get that extra bit of effort into the shots you're doing to group things up or whatever it might be, can make a huge difference between your shot being a nice shot or a really, really good shot. So, yeah.
While you were speaking, I looked up the golden ratio, or the golden circle.
Right.
And you're right. It does relate. It does relate to the Fibonacci swirl.
Right.
And apparently, the divine ratio. Have you heard of this before?
The what?
The divine ratio in an image is 1.618 to 1.
Who gives seriously?
Thanks, Google.
Who spends that much bloody time thinking shit?
So 1.6818 to 1. What does that even mean? The golden ratio is a guide where to place a subject, a tree, person, building, or element in a photo. like the horizon, where it will be most pleasing to the eye. Oh, okay. So like the horizon. So example would be, so if my horizon was right in the middle, that'd be 1:1. They're talking about 1.618. So basically 1 2/3 up your
my head's hurting.
I know. Anyway, that's a
And
rule
but the
I'd
thing
love
is,
to break all
the
the
thing is,
time.
you go to these photo competitions that are run
I
by
know.
the royalty of photography, and they'll
I
sit there and they'll
know.
go, "Oh, it's not 1.235684 of us." It's like, get a grip. Like
Yeah.
people just, yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird.
The other rule that I hear a lot, and it really is by people who don't know, so people who are a little bit naive to photography, and that is get a better camera. What?
No, all things are fixed if you get a better camera.
Well, of course. So you subscribe to that rule, Cam?
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm only a decent photographer because I've just spent lots of money on heaps of cameras over the years.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
and isn't it all photographers' biggest gripe is when someone looks at their photo and they say, "You must have a great camera."
Yeah, that annoys me. But
annoys. My God, it's like fingers down a chalkboard.
having said that, there's a lot of people who have really nice cameras who think that's just how that's why they're going to be good. So
Yeah.
I think it works both ways. I think that people will go, "Oh, you must take really nice photos. You must have a really good camera." They can get stuffed, those people. But then there's other people that go, "Well, these photos are great because I've got the latest and greatest of everything."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're not. It's all to do with the driver behind it. So
it is the archer, not the arrow.
I'd love to do a bit of a test one day. Is just go buy the shittest oldest camera I can possibly find.
Oh, I've been wanting to do this for ages.
And give someone maybe my Leica here, which is a very expensive camera, and say, right, let's go to the same spot and let's take 6 photos and see which ones come out best.
Yeah.
They might win, they might not, but it makes no difference what your camera is. So if anyone listening who goes, well, my mate at the camera club said, if I want to get better, I've got to buy the newest Canon, Nikon, Leica, Olympus, whatever it might be. Tell your mate from the camera club to get a grip. He's probably he or she is probably not good at photography anyway if they're offering that kind of advice, and just get to use and understand the camera that you have. That's the main thing. So
I was rummaging through boxes of old cameras because people like to give me cameras, which is very nice of them.
I don't have a camera once.
Thank you. And it's sitting right here on the desk. I appreciate it. Should we show it just one more time? It's been the star of the show many times, but
you haven't sold it yet.
That thing is not. You know, I've got 4 of these now. 4 K1000s.
You're a Pentax whore.
I'm a Pentax K1000. Absolutely. So I was rummaging through old cameras because I had a friend of mine who's wanted to borrow a big zoom compact camera. And then I realized that someone had given me a basically brand new Nikon D70 in box with their amazing 18-70 ED lens. Just gave it to me. Didn't want it anymore. Couldn't be bothered with it. The thing takes CF cards and it's got a battery that I've got to replace because that won't work anymore. That might be the one that I use in my camera comparison when we do that eventually. That would be because the D70 was a bit of a groundbreaker when that came out about 15 years ago. It was the first sort of, relatively affordable digital SLR after the D100 came along. So yeah.
Was that the last thing that Nikon did that had some sort of relevancy?
Tell you what, it's built like a brick shithouse. It's it is a strong. You can feel it. It's a tough little cookie.
Isn't that funny? The new cameras today versus the old cameras. Like, I pick up the old cameras. I'm like, yeah, this is a camera. And you pick up the new ones, like, oh, it's like an iPhone with a lens on the front.
Some of them, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's different. So
yeah. So anyway, look, that's a brief sort of overview on. Unless you've got any more rules that you want to talk about, Mr. Blake.
Nah, not off the top of my head. Like, I think the rule of thirds, shooting in the sun. Another rule is don't shoot any higher than like F11 or F8. Yeah. I hear that a lot these days. It's like, they're like, what are you shooting on this scene, camera? Like, I'm shooting at F16, focusing about a third of the way in, trying to get that nice big depth of field. Oh, but I was told you don't shoot above F8. I'm like, well, that's not exactly true, I don't think. No. And I think with the new lenses and new sensors and everything else that goes with editing and stuff like that, diffraction and refraction and all that kind of jizz that goes with it, I don't think it's an issue. So I I don't.
It's certainly not as big an issue as it used to be.
No, that's right. Exactly right. And I think that's another one. And I think a lot of these rules we're talking about come out from people just talking photography in clubs and online and stuff like that. And that stupid bloody thing, YouTube, that everyone goes and looks at. I don't know why people spend time on YouTube. It's a waste of time. Present company included. But you know what I mean? Like that, people just go. That
was very meta of you. I like
it. There is a wealth of information. Like there is just so much information these days, and I think that should be one of the rules: is don't go fishing for too much information.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Because you'll get lost.
Yeah, I agree with that. That some channels that you follow, they bang on about the one thing all the time, and it's like, hang on, stop, you're wrong. You're right. No, that's not correct anymore. And it might have been at one point, so you can't blame them. But things get updated and need to be corrected. Cam,
well, I was just going to say, there's another question for you.
Yes,
are some of the rules, like, is it a matter of people misunderstanding what the rules will be? Or is it some people actually think, oh, yeah, you definitely don't shoot in the sun? Like,
no, I think it purely comes down to what you said earlier, and that is people forget the different genres of photography and use it as a blanket rule for all photography.
Yeah, because there's a guy who used to do a lot of Olympus reviews out of Malaysia, and I like, he was very entertaining and stuff like that. But I used to watch it. I'm like, what is this guy on about? Like, he complained about this, or he complained about that, or he'd say, don't do this or don't do that. And I'll be sitting there going, that's like 110% wrong. Like, what are you trying to teach people? So is it people's interpretation, or are we just at odds of what we do in photography? I don't know. It's a weird one.
Oh, anyway, it's all fake news. So Cam, we've got to talk about this.
All right.
It's a therapy session for you, Cameron. So lay down on this couch.
Right here.
Now,
I'm laying down.
I want to talk about your compulsion for gear acquisition syndrome. So you do have gear acquisition syndrome. We know this.
I don't know if I do, but anyway, you're
particularly with new stuff. I have gear acquisition syndrome for old stuff, and that is
I've got plenty of old stuff too.
That is backed up by the fact that I literally have a shed through that wall with boxes of cameras in it. But that's another story. Cam, please hold it up. Show us what arrived at your house today.
I'm hoping it can. I might have to
turn my background doesn't translate very well for audio, but that's okay. No, I
don't think it's going to blur out. Let me just turn my background off. You're going to see all the background shit. I can blur it, can't I?
There you go. You got a blurred background.
All right, can that work?
Oh, it's blurring it.
We go.
Look at that. So, would you like to tell our viewing and listening audience what you are holding?
No, I wouldn't actually. No. This is the brand new 150-400 Olympus. It's Olympus lens, f4.5, absolute
beast,
amazing beast of a camera. So it's a 150-400, which in normal terms is a 300 to 800 4.5. It also has a built-in 1.2 converter, I think 1.25 converter. No, 1.2.
1.2.
Wow. You can flip it over there.
Oh,
this lens hood, it looks like it's in witness protection, doesn't it?
It does. It probably needs to be.
This lens hood will pop around, so it gets really big. But that came through today. Look, I'm actually holding on with this one hand. That's how light it is.
Yes.
And I want to thank our good friends at DigiDirect for giving me this lens for free. No, they didn't.
Amazing.
as if they would. No, I want to thank our good friend Mark at DigiDirect. He gave me a pretty good damn deal on this lens, but I'd also like to criticize him at the same time because he told me the wait time was going to be about 6 months, and it rocked up at about 3 weeks. So I had to scramble my little poor bum to come up with enough funds to buy this bloody lens. So I've departed with a Hasselblad 500 cm and 2 lenses kit. And I've got rid of a couple of Leica lenses to grab this lens. So I'm really excited. We're heading down to Bruny Island this weekend, which has lots of cool stuff. We are doing a boat trip, though, and I'm a bit nervous about taking this brand new lens out on a boat trip because there's whales jumping and dolphins and seals everywhere down where we're going.
You're insured. Come on, man. Just take it out.
I'm gonna have to make sure it's insured. I think it's on there. I haven't put it on there yet, but so yeah, it came through today, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I gave it a bit of a whirl around the neighborhood. That was quite funny. I was on my front porch. I'm like, oh, I'll test this out, and I'm shooting around. And I didn't even think about it. The kids are all playing on the oval down at the school, and I'm shooting around. This lady walks past my house and looks up the porch, and you can hear all the kids yelling and having their fun at lunchtime. I'm like, oh no, I'm not. I'm definitely not taking photos of children. It's okay. I'm taking photos of things away from there. So
That's
I had
right. to. You got to be careful, don't you?
You do. But I'm really excited about using it. It's a lens that it's funny. You say it's a new toy, which it is, but it's actually sparked my interest in a new sort of genre of photography I'd like to give a bit of a crack at, which is wildlife photography. I've got a couple of really amazing customers who have this lens as well. David, if you're listening, he let me use it in the Flinders Ranges a fair bit. And Rhonda, who I know listens to this show, who waited 7 months for her lens, she's using it for her wildlife, and she's going on a trip to the Northern Hemisphere soon as well. But it's the quality I've seen out of this lens has made me think maybe there's some really cool animals and really cool birds down here in Tassie and wildlife. I wouldn't mind giving it a bit of a go. And now people are going to say to me, oh, you're such a wanker because you've just dropped a lot of money to give it a go. But I think it's also, I'm a big person with gear. Like I buy gear that I know is going to hold its value. So I know that, a couple of years' time, if I'm not enjoying this anymore, I want to move it on, I'm going to get my money back most likely.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a bit of an investment as well. So
yeah.
I'm excited to use it, and maybe next week I can show off some photos of the lens just before it got dropped into the Southern Ocean.
Yeah. please don't. That'd be a travesty for all of us, not just you.
That would be.
Cringe a lot.
But yeah, it's cool. I'm liking it. I'll put it through its paces, and yeah. And if you people are coming on any of the OM days, I've just released some OM days for Springbok National Park out of Brisbane or Gold Coast next year. In this time next year, actually, so a long way away. But I'll have that lens with me most likely. So if someone wants to try it out, you're more than welcome. And if you come on any of my workshops or our workshops, Brendan, I'll bring it along, and people can have a bit of a play if they want.
I might get my hands on it.
Don't be offended if I'm breathing down your neck as you're using it.
How hilarious is that lens going to look on my OM5?
Well, it would look pretty funny, but I tell you what, it might be just what you want.
Oh, exactly. I might have to ask Santa for one.
Yeah,
that's the only way I'll get one, by the way.
Yeah, look, Lisa wasn't too happy and the thing is, like, it's about that big, right? How big do you think the bloody box for it is?
Oh yeah,
it's huge. Like stupid. Like,
yeah.
So this box rocked up today, and Lisa's like, "What's in that? Like a TV or something?" I'm like, "Just another lens. Don't worry about it. It's just a lens."
That's right. It's all about the tools of the trade, Cameron.
Well, she does what she normally does and just turned her head and walked off.
Yep, tools of the trade. We need them.
You know what I'm not allowed to buy? I'm allowed to buy that, but I'm not allowed to buy the Titanic Lego set.
Cameron,
that apparently that's where the line's drawn.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Lisa on that.
Oh, come on. Lego's awesome. They should make some Lego cameras.
Yeah, they should. They probably do. Where's my Lego camera guy? Here you go. They do. See, there he is. Got my. There he is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like make a series of Nikon.
That could be you or me, really, couldn't
it? His beard's too black for us, I think.
Yeah, true. That's it. That's my little Lego mascot.
Yeah. Speaking of Titanic, you said?
Yeah, speaking of Titanic, James Cameron in particular, who made Titanic back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Before we came on air, I was in the lounge with my daughter, and my daughter loves Avatar. And she was watching Avatar: The Way of Water.
Yes. That's the new one, isn't it?
The newer one, yeah.
Yeah.
How did they make that film? The imagery in that film, nothing to do with photography, but yes, well, it has, but
yeah,
mind blowing where we're at. It
is pretty good.
Could you imagine taking that film back to Star Wars days in the late 70s and showing people that? They would pass out.
They would pee in their pants, wouldn't they?
Yes. Dear Cam.
Yes.
We love Dear Cam.
Well, have you read the Dear Cam?
Cam's having a good run. Yeah, well, I have.
You've read it? Okay.
I have, and I'm happy to roll with it.
So there's like a precursor to that.
Yeah. Well, because we were talking last week about a certain YouTuber that has now facing the wrath of Parks and Wildlife Tasmania for doing things that they probably shouldn't have been doing in national parks, in particular in Tasmania. There's been a slew of questions about what you can and can't do. The first thing I would say is check your local area, people.
Yes.
Like, we've got people living listening to us all over the world. National parks all over the world have different jurisdictions and different rules and regulations. So by all means, take everything we say with a grain of salt, but check your local area. Because one point that YouTuber made was they're all different everywhere around the world. How are we supposed to keep up? That's really no excuse, is it? But anyway, that's another story.
We had a few people ask about that, and I would echo your thoughts there, Brendan, is that we are by no means any legal experts in licensing and commercial licensing. Our advice would be to make sure that you actually go and read the fine print, or even just in my experience, when I've got my commercial licenses for where I've been and stuff, it's very easy just to ring them up and say, look, I'm looking to do this, or I've done this. What do I need to do? They're very helpful.
Yeah.
They're generally very straightforward. So, obviously, like we said, the YouTuber made a few mistakes. One of his biggest mistakes was ignoring the chance to communicate with Tas Parks and fix this issue before it became a bigger issue. But 100%. My advice in that is, read the park policies. If you're not sure, just ring them up.
Yep.
That's their job.
And I'll touch on another point once we get through this, Dear Cam. Dear Cam, do we have a name for this? Anyway.
Yeah, I'll put it on as you're speaking.
Thank you. Last year, I produced a local calendar for my town. It was a fundraiser type, the local bird life and lakes, etc. There was no profit taken, just donated the proceeds to the local CFA. Nice work. But your episode has made me ponder, should I have sought any license for it? They are all public spaces, nothing under parks guidelines, I would have thought, but I ask all the same. Andrew Connor, not Andrew Cooper, Andrew Connor. And I apologize, Andrew, for calling you Andrew Cooper
it's not good enough, Brendan.
Ago. I know.
Not good enough.
I know. And you know what? The first step of fixing a problem is admitting you've got one, and I have one. So there we are.
I'll apologize on his behalf as well, Andrew.
Anyway.
So it opened up a lot of questions from people about what they can and can't do. And again, with this one, if it's not for a commercial gain, which this one was a fundraiser for, no profit taken, all donated to the local CFA. I think if there's no money being made out of it or no commercial gain out of it, then I think you're okay. But the other thing he puts in there about public spaces, for example, this YouTuber in Tassie, anything that's Crown land is considered Crown land. You need a license to make commercial money off it. So, I would suggest you probably be okay with this one. But again, you just need to check. So wherever you live, for anyone listening, it wouldn't hurt just to give your local parks office a call or get online and just say, hey, look, if I am going to do stuff, am I covered, or do I have to worry about that? And, I personally wouldn't be too stressed about, if you take one photo and your mate next door says, oh, that'll look good on my wall, I'll get Brendan to print it. Yeah. That kind of stuff I don't think is going to rattle the cage too much. But if you're consistently going in and making calendars, or consistently going in and doing books and selling prints at a market that's done on, park land, and you're openly sharing that or showing it's for sale, that's where you're going to have to step up and sign a few documents and say, this is what I'm doing. So, it's a tricky one, but it's an interesting one that we have to talk about.
It is a tricky one. And I think at the heart of it, though, is good stuff. And that is parks services across the country are there to support the area that they are protecting. They are there. Yep. These rules were put in place so that it's not a free-for-all, so that it's not, the YouTuber in question who we're talking about said that, he's up in arms about this, that he's been called out. And this is the same person that would complain a lot more if the joint was trashed by every man and his dog going in there as a free-for-all. And yes, it is to stop big production companies going in there and making a mess and trampling plants and disturbing wildlife and all that sort of stuff. At the heart of it, that's what it's for. That's a good thing. Okay, so look, we shouldn't lose that. We shouldn't lose sight of that, because at the end of the day, these places, these organizations are there to look after the very thing that we all want protected.
That's right, and that's the thing. You can't have your cake and eat it, and because it annoys me. I know for a fact down here that there's people running workshops. I know there's people that make money off selling prints that have lots of shots and promoting them, that have all been taken in national parks down here. And I can guarantee they don't have licenses or had any interaction with parks about doing that. But they're also the same people that will jump up in arms when, they see, like a tourist getting lost and a helicopter needs to come in and save them. They should have to sign something to say they go in the park, or they shouldn't be out there. They shouldn't be this or shouldn't do that. So it's got to be fair and equitable for everyone, regardless if you're a photographer or a hiker or just a normal visitor. There's rules and regulations that apply to all of us. And down here, and like I can only speak of Tassie, there is people blatantly breaking those rules. And as I actually sent a message to that YouTuber we're talking about, and I mentioned that, there's a fair chance that someone in Tasmania, one of these people, who have said, well, that's not fair. He's making money off his YouTube and getting really popular and getting lots of followers by flying a drone in the park. But in the same instance, they're out selling prints of pictures from in the park. So it's a funny one. And, there's books down here that I've seen. There's an Aurora book that's out that people have all contributed to, that's making quite a bit of money, I'd imagine. There's multiple photographers in there and multiple shots from in the parks. Do they all have licenses? Who knows? It's an interesting one. I've been, encouraged to take up a conversation with parks and ask a few questions, but I'm staying well out of it. I know I'm covered, and I know I'm doing the right thing, and I've learnt it the hard way, but I've learnt that, it's no point anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And I know it's tough because this person feels like a bit of a scapegoat. Feels like he's been made an example of, but in the long run, it's a good thing because it gets noticed, it gets traction. I'm sure the media are going to pick up on this because it's a divisive issue, and how much the media loves to divide. So,
well, he's pushing for a meeting with the state premier here, who's also the Minister of Tourism,
old Rocky.
Yeah, look. Again, I'm staying well out of it.
It's hard to stay out of it, isn't it? It's hard because we have opinions, and truly, honestly, I can see both sides of the argument plain as day. I really can. So it is hard to sort of plant your flag, but if I'm going to plant a flag anywhere, it will be on the side of Parks Tasmania. I see completely where they're coming from, and this is the point I wanted to make, and that is, I believe, as this YouTuber made the point today, that some of their rules and guidelines need updating. We updated it with the invention of photography. Rules had to change. We updated it with the invention of audio recordings with YouTube. It needs to be updated because he's right in what he says. He's not a massive production. He's a content creator. And more power to him. I actually watched a couple of his videos the other day. They're bloody entertaining. They're
great.
I really enjoyed the way he does it. But unfortunately,
but the thing is, though, with that as well, he's got about 50,000 followers on YouTube, which isn't. Oh, that's it's heaps more than us. Fantastic. And in the scheme of things, in regards to YouTube people, that's not huge. But his audience is big. And everyone comes down on the back of these, endorsements about Tasmania and go, oh, I'll come and do this, or I'll come and do that. And it becomes an issue then. So, you don't just have one person, me or him or whoever, doing these things and sharing them to the world. You've got multiple people coming down and just breaching rules. So, I'm on the side of Parks. And it's not, I've got nothing against the guy that runs the YouTube channel. I'm with you. I think he does a great job. But I've got to put my little sensible hat on here and say, you know what, if I've got to do it, so does everyone else. And that's just fair and equitable.
Completely agree. And I'd like to see some kind of resolution reached. And unfortunately, I think that just means old mate eating a massive poo sandwich because he made it for himself. But that's probably what's going to happen in the short term. And then hopefully things will calm down and he can continue to create fantastic content, but do it legally. Yeah. How are we going for time, Mr. Blake?
I don't know, because I don't record my audio anymore that had the time on it. But right. I reckon we're getting pretty close to 50 minutes or so. Okay. So maybe we don't want to bore people to sleep over 60 minutes.
I'm going to hold off my horror story till next week. So look forward to that.
We'll get some more popcorn.
Yes. Beer donations for the week, please, Mr. Blake. If you would like to donate us a beer, head to dsps.com.au. I said that too quick, and yet
you did. Thank you to Francis W, who bought us a slab.
Whoa,
that's amazing. And another guy, Mel H. He must be new to the show. I haven't seen him donate before, but thank you, Mel, for your donation as well.
And thanks for your text messages during the week, Mel.
Would you believe hey, Mel, how you going? I'm actually getting text messages from him now about the new macro workshops that I put out there.
He is such a fanboy that he even knows when we record.
Yeah, and he's just trying to distract me. So as I'm talking, Mel, I'm also answering your messages. But anyway, there you go. Nice. Moving on. What do you got coming up, Brendan? I'm going to ask you.
Well, I still haven't got up to the waterfalls. As I say, I know it's tough with weather and illness stopping me. So again, this week I'm optimistic of getting up there so I can have a brand new shiny background for next week. But business as usual, lots of business going on. I've got a entry-level workshop next week, nice. Which I think might have 2 places. So if you're in the local area and want to do the entry-level workshop, which is hands down my most popular workshop, I think 700 or 800 people have done that workshop with me over the journey, which sounds like a lot, but it's only 80 a year. So it's not that many really. So, and Cam, what do you got? Bruny Island.
Yeah, we're off to Bruny Island tomorrow with Jamie, our sidekick Jamie. He's coming along to help me as well. Well, we're actually co-hosting and he's not helping. Well, he better be helping. Better do something. Based on his shopping, based on what we've shopped for today, he's bought M&Ms and V drinks. So I don't think he's thinking of doing much.
That's a good food pyramid right there.
It is, isn't it? So yeah, I've got Bruny Island. And then next week when I get back, I'm off to Flinders Island with a good friend of the show, Tom Putt, and another good friend of the show, Ian Wallace. Ian's a lovely gentleman down here in Hobart, great photographer and publisher. He published our book. Yep. We're having a bit of a bromance trip to Flinders Island. No real reason apart from just debrief for 3 days or so.
And going to shoot Flinders. Why not?
And shoot Flinders. And then I'm off to the Tarkine after that. So busy couple of weeks.
Brilliant.
But we might have to record from Flinders Island in a shack with 2 other people in the background.
As long as TP doesn't crash it. Yeah. You know he's going to.
Rumor has it he drinks like a bit of a pansy, so he'll be in bed by 8 o'clock.
Can we make a small announcement?
Okay. What is it?
That it is now official that both of us will be at BFOP this year.
Oh, you are coming. It's official.
It is. It is official. I will be there. Some lovely person offered me up some accommodation. So how could I possibly say no?
Yeah. Was that TP in his van?
It was Mel in Myrtleford, just down the road.
Oh, right. Is he not staying with me?
That was a joke, Cameron.
Okay.
It's you I'm talking about.
Oh, right. Mel's just sent me another message saying, "Can I call you?" I'm like, "No, recording a podcast." BFOP would be cool. Yes. We have an idea. I've floated the idea, and we'll share it now. But I've floated the idea that on the shenanigans on Saturday night that there's another podcast that people may or may not know. They don't rate very well, but they're out there. Yeah. But they want to have a bit of a debate on stage. So I've come up with the ingenious name that we call it the Mass Debate. Oh, and we get the people in the crowd to ask us some questions. So if you're coming to BFOP, you may or may not see us all debate something photography-wise on stage. But awesome. I'll be rapt to see you there, and we'll have a lot of fun.
I will be loitering, is what I'll be doing. I want to see what this BFOP thing's all about. I've been sucked into its vortex. I can't escape it. It's like a black hole. So we will see what goes on at BFOP. Looking forward to that.
Awesome.
That's in October.
Yeah, October. Glad you know what it is.
Yeah, sometime.
Yeah. No, awesome. Sounds good.
And last but not least, would you like to plug the Great Ocean Road workshop?
Yes, quickly. We have a Great Ocean Road workshop that it's getting a lot of interest. A few little bookings coming here and there. May next year, May 26th to 30th next year, 4 days, 4 nights, 5 days. We're placing ourselves at Apollo Bay, and we're going to explore the wonders that is Brendan's backyard. So if you're keen, jump on to dsps.com.au and you'll find it there. And we'll see you in May, if not beforehand.
If not at BFOP and if not at whatever. And as per usual, if you've got any questions for the show or you'd like to just comment about what a terrible job we're doing, by all means, hit us up in the comments below. Go to our Facebook page. You know where to find us. Don't forget to enter the competition for August. Exactly. So I think we have another 2 weeks for you to get your color images in. All right. I think that's been about 60 minutes, mate. Great. How's that? See? Padded it out perfectly. Yeah. This has been. I had to look back at what episode we're up to. This has been the worst conclusion of any episode of all time. So now I can't stop and restart it now because it's the end. You have been listening to episode 91 of the Down South Photo Show. We will see you for episode 92 next week. Bye for now. We shall see you next week. Okay, bye. Bye.